Thank you. So we will now go on to our text for the day, which we've been doing. It is a long text. I'm going to take you directly from here so we can see the text and the purport both. Here we are, text 8 to 12. So, is there anybody who would like to recite these verses? Anyone would like to have a go at these verses?
I I would like to have a go.
Go ahead. Anjali.
Um, is 8 to 12, isn't it?
Yes.
Is the verses means English
Sanskrit,
or
Mataji.
Sanskrit? No, I think no Sanskrit. I can't do that. I thought English.
Okay, you can do the English. Who would like to? Divya Gaurangi Mataji, would you like to go for it?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. If no one else is doing, okay,
Go ahead.
I will try. अमानित्वम् अदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा शान्तिराशवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्ममृत्युजराव्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु. I can't see the, yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि आध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah.
So, Mataji, you can now, yeah, do the English.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindless amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So, yesterday with Mukunda Hari Prabhu, you have just finished this paragraph of the tolerance, and we're going to read the next couple of paragraphs, or maybe three paragraphs, starting with simplicity. So, I'll read these paragraphs from the purport. Uh, Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential. Because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessing upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, he If he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. I'm just thinking, let me do the steadiness as well. And if we can't finish this today, we'll finish that tomorrow. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of the spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands, which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ear should be engaged in hearing about Krishna and nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service. And it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service. So we will stop here as far as reading the purport, and let's see how much we can cover today. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Behevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It is so nice to see quite a few faces now. So thank you for switching on your cameras, devotees. So let me share my slides for today. So let's just have a bit of a recap what His Grace Mukunda Hari Prabhu has been discussing. So these are the four qualities thus far which are discussed in this verse. Not to be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. That's the definition of humility given in these verses, and you will find other literatures giving some other definitions of humility, but more or less the principle is same. Then pricelessness, not to be anxious to be famous for one's religion, and entering a group not actually following the principle and waiting and wanting to advertise as a religious mentor. Then we discussed non-violence, which is not to put others into distress. Unless one elevates one to the spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. Try your best to distribute real knowledge. I mean, is that word now? You must be thinking, why is it that whenever we speak with Divinam, he's always talking about book distribution and knowledge. I'm not saying it. Srila Prabhupada is saying it is very clear. He's saying not to put others into distress. So just think about it. And Prabhupada commented on it on many occasions that if we are living in an existence where we are surrounded by the devotees of the Lord, where we have the good fortune of having Srila Prabhupada books and a temple to visit and a beautiful deities to take darshan and a wonderful prasadam to taste and a mala in our hand to chant Hare Krishna. While we are carrying on doing this activity, our appreciation for these spiritual activities is growing so much. But on the other hand, if we see others at the same time, which we do every day, who are bereft of Krishna consciousness, and if we see them and just mentally think, oh, so sad, they can't do anything. But if we don't act, so that action is what really compassion means. When we act, seeing the people are suffering, is Prabhupada is referring, is that is called, because people are already in distress. So if we do not go to them and tell them a little bit about Krishna, they're going to be more in distress very soon, because that's the nature of the material world. So it is not a uh, sort of a cliche or anything that where I am having to kind of, like mentioning to all of you how important this activity is. It is directly coming from Srila Prabhupada, and this particular quality makes it very, very important. Prabhupada is saying the best thing is to distribute the real knowledge, is to give out the Bhagavad Gita, give out the other books of Srila Prabhupada. And then there was a discussion on tolerance to be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. An example of Prahlad Maharaj was given, and Mukunda Hari Prabhu discussed this yesterday in the session. So today, let's try to cover a couple of qualities and we'll see how we go. Simplicity. So this is a definition what Prabhupada is writing in the purport is so straightforward that you can disclose the real truth even to an enemy without diplomacy. So, what a profound statement. You have to be so straightforward that you can speak the truth even to an enemy without diplomacy. So, now can somebody give me an example of such a personality who was completely fearless of speaking the truth? Doesn't matter who came in front of him.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Yes, very good. Well done. Who else?
Dhruv Maharaj.
Sorry, Rita Mataji?
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj. Okay, very good. Let's come a little bit closer, as in more recent. Any examples?
Prabhupada ji.
Oh, Srila
Prabhupada ji.
Of course, Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
But there was also another personality just before Srila Prabhupada, who was the Guru Maharaj of Srila Prabhupada. His name was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was also referred as Lion Guru, Singha Guru, somebody who's as strong as a lion, because he was never afraid of speaking the absolute truth. And there were times when there was almost a sword hanging on his head, or people ready to kill him, people ready to barge on him as soon as he finished the lecture, but he still went on and spoke the truth. And there were a couple of incidences in his life where he was giving the katha, and the local Smarta Brahmins, they got together and they attacked the whole assembly. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur boldly spoke in that against them, and he was attacked after that, and his dear disciples somehow or other saved him and took him. And then again, I think it's just the very next day, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur again gave the katha. And this time he was protected by police, because they figured out that what he's speaking is Hari Katha and it's benefiting everybody, and nobody could touch Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was very, very daring personality. So that's what simplicity means, to be able to disclose the real truth even to an enemy, and then not being duplicitous or without diplomacy. And once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, Vaishnavism is the other name of simplicity. The servants of the Paramhamsa Vaishnavas are simple, therefore they are the best Brahmanas. This is a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave many profound instructions through his writings, through his teachings, through his exemplary behavior. And one of the teachings which he gave is that he said the only duty of the most merciful person is to transform the degraded taste of the people. If you can save even one person from the great force of Mahamaya, then that will be a greater act of philanthropy than opening millions of hospitals. I mean, look at that amazing, amazing truth. I would call it eloquence, truth spoken concisely. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What is he saying? He's saying that we can save, if we can save even one person from the great force of Mahamaya, then that will be a greater act of philanthropy than opening millions of hospitals. You see, many people come when Prabhupada used to give katha, or even when you go to India, there are many pandal programs now. And there people say, and they are appreciated and applauded, saying, oh, I'm opening hospitals, and then they are given Padma Bhushan, or so many awards, so-called awards are given. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, if you can preach Krishna consciousness or bring one soul closer to Krishna, that is much greater than opening millions of hospitals. And he's our Acharya, Param Acharya, Guru of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, a very, very empowered and exemplary personality who was none other than the son of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Such an empowered personality. So this is simplicity. And I want to share with you something from Srila Prabhupada's life and what Prabhupada is saying and what Prabhupada has given us. So let's have, because these are directly quotes of Prabhupada, so I don't want to, I would like devotees to um, read them. So if we can have Yashwini Sachi Mataji, are you there?
I'm here. I'm
Yes,
here.
could you please read this first quote for us of Prabhupada? Or it's not a quote, I've taken it from teachings of Srila Prabhupada from other books. Please go ahead. It should be
Okay.
the process he gave is simple.
Okay. The process he gave is simple. Try to understand who you really are. Understand that the material existence is temporary and that we have a higher goal, and that your actions result in determining your destination. Furthermore, the spirit soul will only be peaceful and joyful when reunited with the source of its joy and love, the Supreme Lord. To achieve this, he presented the timeless Vedic wisdom that advocates the chanting of the Lord's holy names as the simple process for liberation in this age. Nothing complicated.
You see, that's the process we have. It is quite simple. Prabhupada said this. He said it is simple for those who are simple, and it is complicated for those who are crooked. Prabhupada gave us, he's saying it's a very, very simple process. Chant Hare Krishna, eat prasadam, dance in ecstasy, and go back to spiritual world. How simple can it get, my dear friends? Just think for it for a moment. It cannot get any more simple than this. So now maybe we can have Geeta Mataji. Would you like to please read the second paragraph here? This is about Srila Prabhupada, which is quite relevant to the verse we are discussing.
So, his humility, modesty, meekness, truthfulness, unpretentiousness, honesty, frankness, and transparency were inspiring qualities to his followers and hearkened to a simpler lifestyle underpinned by a deep philosophy. Simple living, high thinking became a motto of ISKCON. He promoted self sufficient farm communities in which people would live and pursue their occupations according to their natural propensities while living God centered life.
So just think of it for a moment. What a simple lifestyle Srila Prabhupada had. When he was a Grahastha, he lived very simply. When he went to Vrindavan, he lived very simply in Sri Sri Radha Damodar temple, which is called the hub of the spiritual world. eating, cooking prasadam himself. If he gets, sometimes the pujari would come and give him prasadam. He just carried on writing his first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 volumes, sitting in the very tiny little place in Radha Damodar temple. He would walk up here and there. In the evenings, he'll get up, he'll go and broom the area of the samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami. And there he will pray to the Rupa Goswami, "Oh, my dear Rupa, oh, my dear Sanatan, somehow or other, my spiritual master has asked me to take this message of Gauranga Mahaprabhu to the Western world, but I am not qualified. But if you so desire, then kindly empower me so that I can do this task, which is not possible for me to do it on my own." And in that simplicity and humility, Prabhupada had lived such an exemplarily simple life. And that's what simple living and high thinking means. It does not mean to follow different babas in India who are promoting this, what is it called, the simple living and high thinking in different ways. Simple living means living simply for the sake of progressing in Krishna consciousness by taking what is necessary for our body to keep our body and mind and our senses together so that we can serve the mission of Prabhupada, we can serve the devotees and go back to the spiritual world. That's what simple living means. I'm so touched by this line of Srila Prabhupada. If you like, in the glorification of Prabhupada, I'd like to read this line again. His humility, modesty, meekness, truthfulness, unpretentiousness, honesty, frankness, and transparency were inspiring qualities to his followers and hearkened to the simpler lifestyle underpinned by a deep philosophy. Do you see? High thinking part is the philosophy part. Because when you live simply, when you have a sattvic lifestyle, you are able to dedicate more time for hearing and chanting. Is that right or wrong?
Right.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for confirming that, Mataji. I feel very happy that I'm not the alone who's thinking like that. Yes, so that's how we progress in spiritual life. So let's go on to our next principle, and then we can hopefully see how we are progressing with the time. Okay. So this was about simplicity. Please try to remember and capture some points from the teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and glorification of Srila Prabhupada and his own lifestyle. Now we will discuss accepting a spiritual master. So perhaps we can have Paresh Prabhu. Would you like to read this slide for us? Are you there, Paresh Prabhu? Okay. If not, maybe we can have Sandeep Prabhu. Sandeep Prabhuji, would you like to unmute yourself? And
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you hear me?
yes, Prabhuji, I can hear you.
So, approach spiritual master with all humility and offer all services. If he bestows blessings, that will make it easier to follow all the regulative principles and one immediately advances. If you want to meet the president or prime minister, you can't expect to just knock on his door and get an audience. First, you need an appointment from his secretary or an introduction by a mutual friend. It is even more so with God. We each have a direct relationship with God because we are His children. But realizing and acting in that direct relationship is possible after we have become pure, which is a process. A spiritual master selflessly trains and guides us in reviving our relationship with God and is always willing to help in difficult times. Srila Prabhupada.
So Sandeep Prabhuji, क्या ख्याल है आपका इस paragraph के बारे में? Prabhupada ji, what is he saying? What do you think? How profound do you find these words of Prabhupada, and what a nice example he's given here?
I find it is, you know what, I was just hoping that I read this because one of the greatest difficulty I found in my life is to submit to a master or to submit to anybody,
Beautiful.
as in a human being.
Yes,
I can
Prabhu.
easily submit to Krishna, but I find it very difficult to submit to another man. And so I was hoping that you give me a chance to read this so that from my mouth it goes into my mind. This is profound. This is profound. I'm still struggling with it, but you are. It's so correct when third paragraph. If you want
Yes,
to meet the
Prabhu.
president or prime minister, you can just not barge and you'll be kicked out. So you have to take an audience or go through somebody who knows him.
Absolutely, Prabhu. So thank you, Sandeep Prabhu, for reading that. So it's a very important principle, and what Sandeep Prabhu shared is a very honest truth of for most of us, including myself. When I came to, well, I haven't come to Krishna consciousness, so I can't say. When I started practicing Krishna consciousness, um, I I remember my wife was already under the direction of a wonderful spiritual master in ISKCON, and she was taking directions, and I was going to take his audience, meet with him. But I was always in my mind thinking, what need is there for another person to take shelter of to approach God? But soon I realized that after meeting and seeing the exemplary act of these Vaishnavas and the devotees who I met, that what they're doing is they're setting an example for us to follow and to learn about God, because I do not have any qualification. I cannot even recognize God if he comes in front of me. I don't even know how he looks, what he does, and what would he look like when he appears in front of me. But the spiritual masters can reveal that truth, because in Krishna is saying, although in philosophically he is explaining very nicely, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. He's saying just try to approach the spiritual master and submit to him, offer some service to him, and then inquire from him submissively. And such person can reveal the truth because they have seen the truth. So, and now Srila Prabhupada brings this point to home really nicely, where he's saying, well, if you have a reservation, Prabhupada is saying, here is an analogy. You see, an analogy should be given in such a way which makes so much of a common sense for a person that if he's struggling for a concept theoretically to understand, that analogy should give him the conviction, at least to start having faith in this particular aspect of spiritual life, which is the most important aspect in our life, is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And as Prabhuji very nicely reiterated, that if I want to go and meet the president of United States or the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, I'm sure I can go and knock on the number 10, but I'm pretty sure that he won't open the door just me by knocking the door. So so the whole thing is, and especially if I'm looking to interact with him, talk to him, get to know a little bit about him, I better find out what does he do, what are his visiting times, is there a bell which I need to ring, which will connect me directly to him, and what is that bell? And that bell is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then how do I find out that what is he doing in spiritual world? I can read Bhagavatam and find out his beautiful pastimes. How can I find out how I should be behaving when I meet him? I can read Bhagavad Gita and look at Arjuna's behavior. Then I may be in a position to meet with him. So for all of us, and those especially who are thinking of taking this serious step in life, start praying intensely to Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada is our preeminent Acharya. He's our Shiksha Guru for all of us in ISKCON. And if you pray sincerely to Srila Prabhupada, he will fulfill your desire to bring you to the lotus feet of your glorious spiritual master. And how do we know whether the spiritual master is bona fide or not? That's one slide I want to cover after this, and hopefully we should end there because it's 8:32. And what qualities can a spiritual master be recognized with? So let's look at some of these qualities. First quality is that such a spiritual master is well versed in the Vedic scriptures and follow their principles. So that even in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami gives this example that a spiritual master is very well versed in the Vedic literature. He knows the science behind Krishna consciousness. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the only qualification, whether one is born in a low family or a high family, doesn't matter. As long as he's versed in the science of Krishna consciousness, he's qualified to be a guru. And Mahaprabhu is empowering us. He's saying, by my agya, you can become guru and teach Krishna consciousness to others. So that's the first and the foremost thing you can be assured of by seeing this. The second is to identify themselves as humble servant of God and never claim to be God. Although Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado, the spiritual master should be regarded as equal, as good as God, but he himself never claims to be God. Do you see there is a difference here? Because the spiritual master is revealing us the truth, he's so dear to God that we should honor and worship him in the similar mood. But the spiritual master is also humble, so he never claims to be God. He's not God for sure, and nor will he. But you will find some people or cheaters in India who will say, let me turn this metal into gold, and then you start worshipping them as God. Then act with full control of their senses and never fall under their control. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam etan vegam udara pashta vegan etar vegan udara pashta vegan. And then what is the third line? I'm trying to Jiva vegam udara pashta vegam etan vegan yo vishahete dhira Sarvam apitam prithvim nasisya. A sober person who can control the urges of the tongue, mind, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Such a personality. So that is a spiritual master who has controlled his senses in such a way. He's impeccable in the moral character, the way he lives, the way he breathes, the way he walks, the way he talks. He sets an example for all of us. Fully dedicated to serving God at all times. This is another system. When you watch very closely some bona fide spiritual personality, you will never find them wasting any time. Either they will be chanting the japa or glorifying the Lord or trying to do something or giving out the books of Srila Prabhupada or doing some kind of spiritual activity. And he follows a guru who belongs to a genuine line of gurus, a line that extends all the way back to Krishna, which is called Gaudiya Madhav Sampradaya. So that there are 4 sampradayas, and we are coming in directly the sampradaya coming from Brahma. And especially the word Madhav is used because of the Madhav Acharya, who's a prominent Acharya in our line, coming in line. Then his disciple Ishwar Puri, who then initiated Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So like that line is coming to us. So that's another symptom to see how the spiritual master is situated in that line of disciplic succession. And when we strictly follow the guidance of such a spiritual master, our success in spiritual life is guaranteed. So, आज हम यहीं पे विराम देते हैं. We will just finish here, and tomorrow we will try to cover cleaning and cleanliness and I think steadiness, these 2 qualities. So let's have some reflection. Reflection is not necessarily a question. It is an idea, a concept which stuck in your mind, something which you could relate to, something which you can take it back, or if you have a question or a doubt based on what we discussed today, then I can try to answer that to the best of my capacity. But please try to have your videos on. It's really good to be able to see all of you. Anybody would like to have any comment or like to say anything?
Prabhuji, on the point that we were discussing
Yes,
about
Prabhu.
finding a bona fide master and all
Yes,
this,
Prabhu.
so difficult to find people with those qualities.
Yes, Prabhu.
Like in every endeavor in our life,
Yes.
I try to find uh, a person whom I can submit to, who can
Yes,
guide
Prabhu.
me, but I have been miserably failed in my trust. So I find it
Yes.
difficult.
Yes, Prabhu. And that's what Prabhupada actually it makes it. He was very strong about this point that, you have to be very careful when you're approaching a spiritual master. That's why we have these books, Prabhu. Even if we read a little bit, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, Ishopanishad, these small books of Srila Prabhupada, you will notice, Sandeep Prabhu, your understanding will become so strong. Not only that, because you're already performing a limb of bhakti by doing reading Shastra, that Krishna will one day empower you, and he will empower you in such an amazing way that you will be able to find spiritual master, and the spiritual master will be able to find you. So one time, Srimad Gaur Govind Maharaj, a very dear disciple of Prabhupada, who's no longer here now, he was giving a class, and one of his disciple asked, "How do I find Guru?" He said, "You can't find Guru. He said, "What do I do?" He said, "You simply cry that you can't find a Guru." And he said, "I can't even cry." He said, "Then you cry because you can't cry to find a Guru." So the point is, Sandeep Prabhu, that it depends. I can see your desire is still intense. You still have a desire to find it. So couple of things on a practical level which can help Sandeep Prabhu. One is to try to be in the association of those devotees who are speaking in a way which is making sense, and you know that they do not have any malice in their heart, or they are not trying to cheat to try and get something out for you, because that's the definition of even a neophyte devotee or a madhyam adhikari, who's trying to preach actually. So from that perspective, your faith will gradually develop. Second thing, on a practical level, you can do is, when you associate with these devotees, you will notice their achar. So when you talk to somebody, you meet with somebody, and then you go and see them in their house, or you meet them at the temple, consciously and subconsciously, you will note their actions. You will note how they speak, what they see, and when you're able to match these things, then what will happen? Tadati pratigranati guhyam akhyati prachati. Then you won't want to gift that person something. You want to invite that person for prasadam at your home, and you want to reveal your heart that, Prabhu, I've been, speaking to you, listening to you, reading Prabhupada books. I have some questions. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then that person can give you some answers based on his experience and his realization in Krishna consciousness, and that will help you move forward in Krishna consciousness. That is why when we meet some disciples of or devotees, it's not a bad idea to ask humbly, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you, Prabhuji. What is your good name?" "My name is Sureshwar Das," or "My name is Madhav Kumar Das." "Oh, so nice to meet you, Prabhuji. Who's your wonderful spiritual master?" "Oh, my spiritual master is His Holiness Radhanath Swami. My spiritual master is His Holiness Jayapataka Swami." Then, "Oh, all right, okay. Well, I haven't heard of Radhanath Maharaj. Could you tell me about it?" "Well, why don't you read his autobiography?" You will read his autobiography and you'll jump out of the bed, Sandeep Prabhu. You'll jump out of the house. So it's like that, because their act, and just simply the way they walk the earth is so special, Sandeep Prabhu. And when you hear their charitra, their life, what a life they have lived, that they're all of them are exemplary. But when you read about Radhanath Maharaj, you will know that Maharaj, oh my God, he's come from another plane here. The way he grew up, the way he went on to explore, looking for God in India, how Mother Ganga revealed the holy name to him, how he came in shelter of his divine spiritual master among thousands of people sitting in the pandal, thousands of people. Prabhupada penetrated right towards Maharaj and he invited him to the stage. And Maharaj had long hair at that time and all of these things. So when you read about the exemplary qualities and charitra of such devotees, their biographies, you will be moved, Sandeep Prabhu, and you will get attracted. And then the more you hear from these personalities, then soon you will realize, somewhere in your mind and in your heart, it will say, "That's it, he's my spiritual master. I want to take shelter of him, and I'm going to worship him for the rest of my life to take me to Krishna." Sorry, Prabhu, that was a long-winded answer to your point. I do apologize.
No, that was beautiful. Haribol. Amazing.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other points or questions anybody has? I wanted to ask you all a question. I can't remember. Am I right that tomorrow evening, again at 7 o'clock, we are going to have audience of His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj? Is that right? Because it's, or is it the next weekend? I can't remember now.
I think it is every Saturday during the month of Kartik.
I know, but okay. I think the last Saturday is Sachinandan Maharaj. The reason I asked the question is whether do we have our chat session tomorrow at 7:30? Oh, sorry, 7:45, or we have our chat session before our contact calling call, which we do in the afternoon at like we do the call at 4. We can meet at 3:30 or 3:15. So I just wanted to know if anybody knew what's happening tomorrow. Can do you have messages from the Parikrama group? Can anybody check if we got anything today? Normally it comes by now.
Is it Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj tomorrow?
Oh, were we supposed to hear Maharaj? That would be even amazing.
I thought it was. Need to-
My understanding was it was first week. Obviously, we had Amrendra Prabhu, then we had Chandramoli Maharaj. I know last Saturday we are going to have Sachinandan Maharaj, which is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. But I don't know who is in tomorrow. Okay, if you don't mind, I'm gonna check out on that, and maybe tomorrow morning I can put a message once I know, because it's always nice to hear from these exemplary Vaishnavas. I do not have so many realization, well, not probably any. I just repeat what I hear. So it will be good if we can take association if there is a class happening in the evening. But for now, I will again humbly request you, invite you to please come for the call tomorrow at 4 o'clock. If not, we may have a chat session beforehand for 45 minutes or half an hour. I'll let you know the time because obviously it becomes a longer time for all of us. So we will discuss the qualities tomorrow on cleanliness and steadiness. And do watch out, especially on steadiness. I found a very beautiful article of His Holiness Shivram Maharaj, which I'm going to share with all of you. It moved my heart when I read that article on steadiness. So I can assure you that it will definitely be very uplifting for all of us as well. So can I please request all of you to see if you can join the call tomorrow and just call a couple of friends of yours, because obviously last Saturday, Friday, I had many of you saying we will join, but we still had few. And the best part is those who joined us. One of them was Jolly Mataji, and she just tried. She did a role play, then she called her friend. Is Jolly Mataji on the call, by the way, right now?
Prabhuji, yes.
Oh, Hare Krishna Mataji. In a very short, I know we are running off the time. Maybe in 2 minutes, you can just share your experience of how you felt on coming on the call and how was it, so that others also feel encouraged and they could also join tomorrow, Mataji.
Yeah, I was worried about it, and it was just I decided last minute to join because there was a plea for somebody to join, and spontaneously I joined, and I was surprised of the result. Although I wasn't prepared, it just happened. Somehow, I think Srila Prabhupada injected some amazing um, words, simple words to help me to convey what I was doing. And I found it very, very useful. I actually reflected and found a better way in future to address different areas, like introduce myself a bit more respectfully. And I think I felt rushed because of time, but somehow I think the contact will have, if you take your time and really consider the other person as thinking about whether if you think about them as though it was you. So you're stepping in their shoe for a moment and wanting to know what to expect. I think you can't go wrong then, because you would know what you would like somebody to say to you if they're trying to invite you to this project. So yeah, you have to reflect, and I think I feel that I'm going to grow a bit better every time. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jolly Mataji. So I just want to share a one small pastime. Again, I think I must have mentioned it a few times. My spiritual master, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, he, for 44 years, he's been distributing Prabhupada books, even though he's an initiating spiritual master now. and he is a president of ISKCON of Silicon Valley, a BBT trustee. He has many, and a GBC of New York Temple now with His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. Together, they're serving in that capacity. Um, he, in after 10 years being in the movement, he was invited and was introduced to Srila Prabhupada with a group of disciples of Prabhupada, saying that Prabhupada, these are your devotees. They're going to many countries to train others on the art of book distribution. So Prabhupada said two things. One of the things he said when he looked at in my Guru Maharaj's eyes, and he said, I have not simply written these books just for distribution. I want you all to read them carefully and go back to Godhead. That's the first thing. So from that day on, he took it to his heart, of taking this study of Srila Prabhupada books very sincerely. And that's when he was able to share this formula. When you read and study Prabhupada books, and when you go out, it's a perfect combination of dal and rice, which makes it khichdi. And then the other point Prabhupada made when another disciple of Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, do you have any tips for these devotees? Prabhupada said that you just simply has to be sincere, and the spirit and the super soul who's situated. Prabhupada took his hand and put it on his heart, who's situated in your heart. He will give you all the intelligence to do everything. So that's how I feel, because Jolly Mataji somehow just came. So I'll give you an example. You can also do this in your own time. So I'll give you an example. Hema Mataji, she very politely and humbly signed up to enroll 10 people, and she managed to enroll her 10th person already today. And I know she's not going to stop because she's doing so many other things to distribute the Gita. So, but what happens if you come on the call, you'll get strength. When you hear from Mukunda Hari Prabhu, Keshav Gokulanand Prabhu, their experiences, you will hear a role play, you'll get strength. So all I'm saying is, even if you don't make a call, just come and watch what's happening. Then you will automatically pick up your phone and say, oh yaar, ek call to main maar hi sakta hu. I can also call somebody and tell them about Bhagavad Gita. It's not so difficult. And if I'm doing that, and on top of that, Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, there is nobody more dear to me than one who tells others about my sacred conversation. Let me just become dear to Krishna. What's the harm? So we have nothing to lose. The worst can happen is the person can say no. And you know what happens when the person says no? Do you want to know what happens when somebody says no to you? Anybody wants to know? Or it's
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely.
okay. Puja Mataji definitely wants to know what happens if somebody says no to you. So here is your answer. I hope you're ready. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that when you go out to give the message of Gauravani or about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna, and when somebody rejects you, you get chitta rakta for your chitta sharira. You get spiritual blood for your spiritual body. And it is explained further that you become humble. You think, I do not know anything. I need to go deeper in Krishna consciousness. I'm a beggar. I'm a servant of the servant of the servant, 1 million times removed. That's my condition. So you get that spiritual blood when you get rejection. So imagine a person who's trying to present a Bhagavad Gita. If he gets yes, it's all success because he becomes dear to Krishna. If he gets no, it's all success because you're getting spiritual blood to perform bhakti, still all success. So there is absolutely nothing to lose. So that's my humble request to all of you. All the devotees, all the leaders across the community are doing a wonderful service. Like, Vrindavan Chand Prabhu is reaching out to so many people. Hema Mataji, Divya Gaurangi Mataji, all of you. And Mukunda Hari Prabhu is speaking to all our mentorship system. One by one, he's going to each one of them and saying, please join the campaign. Please join the campaign. And here we are so lucky that we have 35, 40, 50 of you who are already on the campaign. So my humble request is just try it out tomorrow and try one call and see. And by hearing each other's reflections, you will get such encouragement. So on that basis, maybe we can rest now. It's 8:50. Call it an evening and meet tomorrow. I'll drop a message whether we meet at 3:15, 3:30, or we meet at 7:45, depending on what's happening tomorrow. But if I can maybe have a Hare Krishna from you to at least to try to join tomorrow on the call, that would be really nice. Just try for it. That's all I'm going to say. Just come and join the call. So thank you very much. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu veeva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavi namo namaha. So everybody can unmute and say Hare Krishna.
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 Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Thank you,
for
Rita
the
Mataji,
wonderful class.
for doing
I
your
will
bit.
surely join tomorrow. Yeah.
Jai,
Okay.
thank you so much, Rita
Yes.
Mataji. We'll hear from you
Thank you.
tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for doing this wonderful service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.